Um, so good afternoon to you all. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you so much. Fantastic from Bryony there. Ever so interesting. I've learned a huge amount. So thank you so much for sharing. So my role is an online safety consultant, and I work for Southwest Grid for Learning, where we work closely with schools across England and Wales, all to do with online safety. So we'll be touching on a lot of that this afternoon in the next 20 minutes or so, because a lot of our digital resilience comes from us being safe users of the internet. Us here at Southwest Grid for Learning, we're part of the UK Safer Internet Centre, along with our partners in ChildNet and the Internet Watch Foundation. Lots of you viewing this hopefully have seen that UK Safer Internet Centre logo, and you've seen and taken part in activities over the years around Safer Internet Day, which was yesterday indeed here. Depending on when of course you were watching this video back in February. So lots of good information on that website there for things to do with online safety, and indeed pop over to the Southwest Grid for Learning website as well for lots and lots of resources to do with all sorts of aspects of keeping safe online, education resources, teaching resources, and much more. So I've popped up this sort of infographic, if you like, on the screen here with the house, and just as an illustration of, just to remind us how much the internet and our use of the internet and the online world has become absolutely central in our lives. We can think about, we use the internet and we're online for hours and hours every day. And on so many different devices. We may wake up and have a look at our phones or our tablets. We may put on our smartwatches and track perhaps our morning exercise, or read news clips, or send calls, make messages, all sorts of things. There may be smart tech in our schools, and we may be working with laptops and iPads and computers and tablets and all sorts of interactive things. We may be online at home playing games, or using our Alexa smart speakers and so on. Our interactive TVs, we may be using our voice commands, or searching our favorite programs all through the internet. Even down to our homes, we may have smart thermostats controlling our temperature of the house we're in, even down to perhaps things such as our fridges, which some of the latest ones now can even phone in almost your order ahead to the supermarket when the fridge can sense you're low on milk and so on, which would be quite useful, I'm sure. But it's just an indicator of how much technology is part of our everyday lives, and we need to make sure that we judge things critically and we are safe when we're doing so. It's so absolutely key that we do things in a safe manner. If we look at this graphic here, which is from a LocaliQ website, and it just again is just to re-emphasize the point to us that in just 1 minute of being online, 174,000 apps are downloaded, or 3.47 million YouTube videos are watched. There's 6 million people shopping online every minute. 231 million emails are sent. There's 2.1 million people are active on Facebook at any minute of the day, and so on. We could dive down into these figures for hours. The point being that the online world is a massive, super busy, complicated place. And it makes it very challenging for youngsters. There's all sorts of distractions. There's all sorts of information being thrown at us left, right, and centre. We may be interacting with people who we've never met face to face. We may be getting information or doing research on random websites or links we've clicked. Or we may be watching videos we've no idea who created. And all of this searching online can lead to a sort of confusing place at times. One of the resources we use a lot is a really brilliant thing. You've probably heard of Ofcom, and they produce a report every year which breaks down in really good information the way we work in the UK, sort of children, parents, using the online world. And I'll skip through some of these things very quickly, but a great example is the iPhone sort of graphic I pulled over here, which is from one of the reports a couple of years ago, but I left this one in there because it's so interesting. It shows us straight away for 3 to 17-year-olds the use of sort of different online platforms. And it's probably straight away apparent to you all that the vast majority of youngsters are using a lot of social media. Again, it's what lots of us are doing online. So we need to make sure we're doing these things safely. Here's some other graphics I've pulled from those Ofcom reports, just again to highlight the points to us that so many of our youngsters from sort of 5 to 18-year-olds have got access to a wide range of technology. We're not all just going online on a computer anymore. We're using our phones, tablets, smart speakers, all sorts of things. But the key thing to all of this is the people who are going online is yourselves. It's the youngsters. It's people who those skills you need to develop to be safe online are transferable across all these different ways of getting online. This last graphic down here, you can see, from such a young age, youngsters are getting their own devices, their own mobile phones, and almost simultaneously, as soon as they get their own mobile phones, sort of age 7, 8, 9, are creating profiles and apps on social media. It's a concern for us because, as most of you know, social media should be for 13 plus, but it's so important we all support anyone we know who does have profiles younger than that age, so they know that they can turn to trusted adults if and when they see something unkind online. Just some other graphics here, just pointing out again some of the devices we all use to get online. By sort of 16, 17-year-olds, it's pretty clear you guys are all doing this, but you all are using sending messages, creating videos, watching video platforms, almost universal adoption of social media and so on, watching live streams, all these sorts of things. So we need to make sure we are safe when we're online. Parents are concerned, and we need to know as youngsters what the concerns of our parents are, so we can help make sure we are acting in a safe and responsible way online. Lots of parents are concerned about youngsters perhaps being bullied online, cyberbullying, or seeing inappropriate content, or even things such as companies tracking information about what we're doing online and damaging our reputations either now or for the future. It's also true, this graphic is showing that sadly with things such as nasty online experiences, online bullying, statistics are proving now that face-to-face bullying is overtaken by communications technology. Often these things go hand in hand as well. So we need to know we can turn to adults and responsible adults if we need some support. And it's great to see from this graphic that when questioned, lots of youngsters were saying, yes, they have had conversations with their parents about internet safety, about online safety. And it's absolutely crucial that youngsters do know that they can turn to parents or teachers or other responsible adults when something goes wrong online. It's worth pointing out as well, part of being a critical thinker online and being safe online is looking at the money we spend. And some of these graphics are from the website internetmatters.org, and they're effectively just showing us that, sadly, lots of the statistics are showing that lots of youngsters are spending online perhaps money they don't actually have themselves, whether it's they've taken money from parents or carers, or they've used other people's cards they shouldn't have, or borrowed money. A lot of youngsters are, unable to track the amount of money they've spent. It's so easy, isn't it, in an app or a game to keep clicking buy this next level or the next power up or so on. And that, monthly spends for youngsters is getting more and more as time goes on, sadly. We need to be aware, if we're sort of critically looking at being safe online and being good digital citizens, we need to be aware of some of the cyber threats that are out there. And it's things such as malware, web-based attacks, phishing attacks, spam email, cyber espionage, identity theft, all these sorts of things, which again we could talk for hours about. We need to be aware as confident digital citizens that these threats and these problems are out there, and we need to know how to look after ourselves and be safe online. How can we make sure and minimize these problems, make sure we're as safe as we can be? And it is, of course, things like not sharing our personal information, not clicking on pop-ups or dodgy links which look too good to be true, looking at things that come through, whether it's a website or an email, and think, do we know where it's come from? Is it a trusted source? And also knowing, where to turn if we have problems, if our devices develop viruses or too many pop-ups or adware and all these sorts of things. Do we know how to clear histories and caches? Do we know how to update and make sure our settings are completely private and safe and all these sorts of things? There's lots and lots of skills which we, as users of the internet, so much need to acquire and use on a daily basis. The government looks at the online dangers, and sadly there are so many of them, and they look at them in terms of these 4 C's up here at the top, which is the content you may see online, it's the contact, the conduct, and the contract, or sometimes called the commerce as well. And I won't go into all of these, it's clear on the screen what lots of these dangers are, but it just goes to show the broad range of problems and dangers out there for all of us, youngsters, every single person who's using online. You may see inappropriate content, you may see misinformation or disinformation, there could be inappropriate or harassment, stalking contact, ideological persuasion or sexual harassment online, bullying or harmful or hostile words or comments or messages can be sent. And indeed, the contract or the commerce can be sometimes one that we might forget as one of the dangers, but in fact could be lots of real world dangers for all of us. And it's things such as identity theft and fraud, scams, blackmail, and even things such as gambling and targeting and stuff online as well. So there's a lot of dangers out there. I'm going to give you a very quick break for a minute or two from hearing me, just to watch this video, because it's one of the best ways using this video to just show how easy it is for us to inadvertently give away so much information about ourselves online, and how we maybe need to be a bit more safe looking after our personal data. Effectively, I'll give you a bit of a narration over this. So the video is showing us this cafe, and there's people outside the cafe pointing to the sign saying, if you like them on Facebook, you will get a free coffee and a free croissant or a donut or something. And while these people are going in there and liking on Facebook, the staff are all linked to a van outside who are deep diving into the personal information of the customers. And then the baristas are very quickly writing all of the personal information on the coffee cups. And it's just showing the amount of information that we all have out there, perhaps on our social media profiles and things like that. And the complete shock of the customers when they get a coffee cup saying their name, address, where they work, which gym they go to. The guy's absolutely baffled by the amount of information that they have. And it's just a little lesson for all of us, that we are so easy to fall for, if you like, sort of tricks and things online. And just to make sure that our privacy settings, and a good website there, identityfraud.org.uk, make sure our privacy settings on our social media are set absolutely as strong as they can be. It only takes us to, take a selfie. Here I am at work today, and we tag the location of our work for anybody who's on our social media to know exactly where we work. The same is true of our home, maybe sports clubs or our schools. Same is true of family members and all these sorts of things. And And you would be surprised at the amount of times in this job I have seen people sending pictures and so on, where in the background maybe they've got another computer open with their bank information or a letter on the table or something. And the amount of information which is out there on us is very scary. So we need to do as best as we can to protect ourselves. There we go. So how can we improve our digital resilience? In the last couple of minutes, I'm just going to go over a few of these key points. And it's things such as consider what information we share about ourselves online. Some of us perhaps were from the generation that when things like Facebook started, we all keenly put in all this information because we wanted to link up with all the same people who perhaps went to our school, or, you know, the same people who like the same sports team and so on. Oh, isn't this fantastic, all this information? But once we've given that information away, that big data away, companies are out there using that information to target advertisers things at us. They deliberately want this information, and it's worth billions of pounds so that they can sell advertising to just get the right things pointed towards us to try and entice us to buy stuff. You've probably all noticed this. You maybe have searched for a new jumper or a new laptop or something, and then all the ads on every other platform you come to are all those same things being targeted for you. So be careful of what information we share online. And of course, be careful of where we share our locations. Good advice is to turn those location settings off in things like social media. Don't give away where you are. Certainly don't give out your address. Don't give out your name. Your name's your family and important people around you and so on. Your other personal information, all sorts of stuff like I've talked about, bank information and all these things. And of course, it's very easy in a talk like this, or you've probably had online safety talks or information at school and college and so on. And we sit there going, oh, yes, of course, I would never give out my information, my name and address and email and phone and all this stuff. No, I will be super safe online. But as that video earlier on demonstrates, it only takes the hint of a free coffee or a free croissant for us all just to happily give away all this information. And the same is true of so many of these phishing scams and other things which we will see online. So we need to be actively conscious and thinking of these dangers all the time in all our activities online. And that's a huge part of being digitally resilient, being able to spot the problems, spot the scams, and know not to give away this information. And of course, passwords, absolutely key. And you'd be amazed at how many fake scams and things are out there, pretending to look like the login screen for your bank or something like that, when actually they're just trying to get your password so they can log into all sorts of things. So some resources ever so quickly. If we head over to the Southwest Grid for Learning website, which if you just search online for SWGfL, as I mentioned at the start, a massive number of resources on there. And one really good resource is things called the social media checklists. And these are small little checklists which will go through in great detail how to make sure you've got the privacy settings set correctly on your social media, but also how you can ban and block and report people in specific apps as well, which is, again, a huge skill set needed to be digitally resilient. You may receive unkind comments, or you may wish to ban or block people, and that's something we need to learn to do. And of course, we need to make sure our privacy settings are set as private as possible. Critical thinking, well, we just need to be aware of misinformation and disinformation. One key skill to do this in the short time we've got left is just to remind you all to fact check things. Does the information come from a reliable source? Is that news story coming from a credible sort of news organization like the BBC or ITV or something, or a credible newspaper? Or is it just some random news story you've seen perhaps on a retweet or a social media article or something like that? Check stories from multiple sources. And one of the things we thoroughly recommend, especially when you are doing any research as well, is to use fact checker websites to check stories. Things such as fullfact.org, Snopes.com is a really good website, sort of a bit more American based, but good for sort of global news. And of course, the BBC Verify service is hugely useful for UK stories. And again, to really get the truth without a bias one way or another, but the actual facts is so key for us all to be digitally resilient and think critically about all the time we spend online. And I will leave you as well with another website called Report Harmful Content. You can see the logo there. And that is just, again, you can search for Report Harmful Content and you will find that website. And that's a really good website to report problems and issues, which we often call the lawful but awful. So things which perhaps the police may not be able to help with, but are nasty. Things such as bullying online, imitation, fake social media accounts, all sorts of things like that. And you can report a lot of those things, and there's little guides how to do that on all sorts of apps on that website too. So Report Harmful Content, a really useful website. If you'd like to keep up to date with far more things around online safety, southwestgridforlearning.org.uk. You can sign up for the newsletter. We also have a range of podcasts which discuss all sorts of things around online safety. So thank you so much for today. Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope you have a lovely rest of the afternoon. Thank you very much.